Hello and welcome to the Behind the Beat podcast with me, Katie Russell from Planet Drum Music School in London. Join us as we talk to special guests and industry professionals about all things music. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Behind the Beat podcast with me, Katie Russell from the Planet Drum Music School in London. Today we have Daniel Francis with us from Rockschool. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about him. So, Dan, how are you? And can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you initially started working with Rockschool?
Hi, Katie. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me to come along. My official title for RSL Awards, or Rock School, is Head of Sales and Partnerships for the UK Republic of Ireland, which is, in many ways, it's a slightly odd title because my background is as a teacher. So I was a classroom teacher for.
I was going to ask, do you have a musical background, or is it
Yeah, I
more of
do.
a...
Yeah. So, but to answer your first question, we might as well do it in the right order, I suppose.
Yeah.
I started working with Rock School in the tail end of 2018 when I was basically looking around at what I wanted to do next in my career, and I thought working for an exam board would be a really good thing. So it would pull together all the different sort of skills that I had, I suppose, and it gives me an opportunity to talk to people on a national level about the approach to assessment and how that fits into musical learning.
Yeah.
So I kind of approached Rock School then, and then we formulated a bit of a role at that point, which then has evolved into what it is now. And a lot of that evolution has been because the world has been very, very different since sort of March the 23rd, 2020, I think was
Yeah.
the date when it all kind of went a little bit odd. So that's how I come to work with Rock School. Yeah, and my role is basically to go around the place talking to teachers, students, organisations, schools, colleges, universities about music, about musical development, and the creative industries, and performing arts, and podcasting and vlogging, and all the different things that we do, and how what we've already got can help give students recognition for what they've done, but also if there's stuff that they need, we explore how we can develop that as well. So we're constantly providing what people
What
need
people need, yeah.
in order to get accreditation for what they've done. So that's it in a nutshell, I think.
Yeah, good. So do you yourself have a musical background? Did you say you were a teacher before?
Yes, I was. So, I did an academic music degree in Nottingham. I then did
Okay.
a PGCE in
Yep.
Leeds. I cut my teeth as a classroom teacher far longer ago than I want to admit, but it was before the millennium, and that was in Surrey. And I basically went through, became head of department, head of curriculum. I then became an assistant head. And through doing that, there was a lot of working with students in the classroom, managing and training other teachers, working with instrumental teachers, and looking at how what happens in instrumental lessons feeds into what happens in the classroom.
Yeah.
Then was head of Bucks Music Service for a while, and then I did that before I came across to Rock School. I'm a trumpet player and a keys player primarily.
That was it. Yeah, I was trying to remember. It was trumpet,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I did classical grade exams, but I went through that process as a child, really enjoyed it, saw the value of it, but it was only valuable in conjunction with doing a whole load of other stuff. The thing that really opened
Yeah.
my eyes to kind of being a musician was playing with groups of people,
Is
and
there obviously when you were learning trumpet, was the only option to do classical? I mean, can you have a more contemporary trumpet grades, or is it only classical?
well, I guess the options at the minute are classical and jazz. Those are
Yeah.
the two options. Whether that evolves, we'll wait and see what happens in that direction. But certainly, when I was doing my grades, kind of in the '90s, it was doing the classical pieces, and I
Yeah.
love classical music, and I'd listened to it, and I played it, and I played in youth orchestras and orchestras as a grown up, and have sort of travelled all over Europe, kind of doing that sort of stuff, and it's absolutely brilliant. But added to that, as a trumpet player, I was able to play in big bands. I was able to do sort of pit band stuff, West End
That's
style
cool.
things. I was in soul bands, set up a soul band when I first started teaching because I had what did I have in the classroom? I had a trumpet player, a couple of saxophonists, some violinists, a couple of keys players, a bass player, and a guitarist and a drummer. And I
We
thought,
got a
you know
whole
what,
band
these
there.
guys exactly these guys need to come together and form the soul band, and they became absolutely brilliant. And the kind of the link between reading a chord chart and reading notation and playing as part of a band, as well as kind of developing your own skills. It was sort of, that was the whole thing, that was about being a holistic musician. And to be honest, that's why I started working with Rockschool, because I
Yeah,
felt that their approach to assessment does kind of have that in its underpinning, in its DNA, which isn't necessarily the case everywhere else.
yeah, yeah. So how, because you touching on what you said earlier, how does, since the pandemic has started, or whatever's March 2020, how has things evolved for you in terms of how can people take exams? How has that changed?
Um, I'll tell you what, how things have evolved, and what's really exciting is that we went into lockdown and did everything on Zoom online. Obviously, you know that
As
a
did
whole load,
everyone, yeah.
yeah, people all over the country, all over the world. In fact, we're going, right, how are we going to do this? So they started delivering lessons online, which was really interesting. And there was some stuff about that was really challenging. And the move back to face is obviously really important and really valuable. But there was a whole load of really good stuff that came out of that. Things like people recognizing that they could teach all over the world. So it kind of widened up, business opportunities for organizations. It also opened up the possibility for students to be able to take exams in different ways. So we're now in the situation where a whole load of students are absolutely champing the bit and coming back and doing exams. So they come down to you to do their rock school
Yeah,
exam at Planet Drum. That was only kind of last week, which was
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
And then we've got organisations that have got students ready to do their exams that are organising private days. So we've got that traditional model, which works brilliantly, particularly for those students that want the interaction with a human being,
Yeah,
working towards the audition model or getting ready to do live performances and so on. But we've also kept the recorded digital option, which is where students do a continuous online recording of their unedited, of their everything they need to do for the exam. So that could be the 5 pieces as part of the performance certificate, or it could be the 3 pieces and then all the technical exercises that you have to prepare for your exam anyway. But instead of having the examiner ask you to play just a few of them, you obviously just do a recording of all of them,
right.
the continuous unedited bit, and then you can submit that. This is really, really good. Um, as a discipline for those musicians who are possibly nervous about performing in front of other people, or people who are in remote locations, or who for various reasons, for their mental health and well-being, aren't going to go traveling about all over the place and being in front
Yeah,
of other people. But crucially, for all those students that actually won't necessarily be a live performer, they might always be a studio musician, a session musician. This is a really good thing. And we were talking, weren't we, before this podcast, about the thing about the student that will do take after take after take
yeah.
after take to try and get the perfect recording. Does such a thing exist?
No.
Actually,
Well,
it's about
if you're in a studio session, you can't afford to do that, can you? And it is quite often actually the first take. It tends to be one
yeah,
of the best takes I've found anyway. So yeah,
and
that's
obviously,
interesting
yeah,
in terms of it is getting you ready for that sort of
yeah.
studio environment, isn't it?
And obviously, the difference between in the studio, you do a take and then you do another take, and you can sort of splice the two different best ones you can together. Because this is an exam situation, we
You
go,
can't
right,
do that.
you're going to do a recording, much in the same way that people that have done sort of GCSE recordings, or even recordings for our VQs, have gone, this is the day you do the recording, that's it, done,
Yeah,
submit. So I think it's been really interesting seeing how people have explored the different ways through that. The other thing that we do as well, which sort of the lockdown has given us the opportunity, is live streamed exams, which is a genuine standard face-to-face exam. But rather than the student and the teacher being in the same place, they are connected via a webcam video link. So we've had a great situation where we've had an examiner in Denmark, head office kind of monitoring it all from the UK, and then you've had a student in Singapore taking the exam, and it's really, really good to see all that sort of that truly global thing going on.
That's crazy when you think about it, really, isn't it?
Music is this universal language, and and that's sort of played out there. We've got these different countries who all have their own, obviously, different styles and different ways of approaching music. But in this context, we're all doing the same thing and making music together, which is glorious.
Yeah.
What is the most popular amongst students' way of taking the exam? Do most people like digital exams better, or like face to face?
That's a great question. At the minute in the UK, the most popular option is face to face.
Okay, so it's still face to face.
Yeah, and I think probably overall it is that, but actually it's been different in different countries. At this stage, it's possibly slightly too early to say what it's going to be, because we've still got people that are having to do recorded digital, because different countries have still got sort of different lockdown measures in place and restrictions on international travel and so on. But I think generally speaking, face to face is just more popular than recorded video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It also varies from grade to grade. The higher grades tend to be more popular for face to face. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Something that I did want to talk to you about actually was you've recently got some vlogging and podcasting. Are they graded, or is it like a curriculum, or is it can you tell me a little bit about those? Because I think they're really interesting. Obviously, they're very current to what a lot of people are interested in now, aren't they?
Okay.
I mean, we're on a podcast, so
Yeah, no, they are, and that's what we've done. As well as kind of an holistic, coherent approach to assessment, and being, basically be a musician, be a dancer, be a creative industries professional, and we will find the most appropriate way to give you, to examine you and assess you, that demonstrates your skill. That's kind of within our DNA. So we recognise there's a whole load of stuff going on, podcasting and vlogging being one of them, and music production being another, that haven't traditionally had ways of assessing and doing exams. So we built that in. They are debut to grade 8 at the minute.
Okay, so it is like a graded, as if you were doing like drums
exam.
And stuff.
Yeah, it's a graded exam, except that what the student produces is a creative response to a stimulus.
So it's like
it's a coursework task.
Coursework, portfolio kind of thing. Yeah.
Coursework, which they then submit online. So we are looking at it. We're constantly looking at the best way to do it. Everything sort of gets reviewed over a period of time, and we are currently looking quite carefully at what our kind of a long-term digital qualifications offer is, if you like. So music production came out in 2018. That's popular.
Yeah.
There are things we can do to that to kind of to keep it up to date. There's also the really interesting balance between our music production grades, which are, again, they are coursework tasks which you submit, and then there's a 40% exam. But there's also a whole load of people that are performing music using technology. Yes. And there are also lots of styles where there's technology used as the compositional bed, and then there's kind of rapped and spoken word over the top as well. So these are areas that we're looking at all the time as well, because we want to be forward thinking, innovative, and frankly, I think
the challenging thing with these three, obviously music production, vlogging, and podcasting, is the technology is changing so quickly. So it's probably going to be harder to keep it current and relevant. Whereas something like drums, obviously there's new music coming out all the time, but I feel like the technology in which people are vlogging on, like the cameras and the equipment used, is just changing so quickly. So that after 2 or 3 years, they're going to be using something completely different. Yeah.
Keeping things current is really important, and keeping things flexible is really important. And so at the minute, it's always going to be the case that what we're going to assess is always when it comes to playing guitar, it's assessing their ability to demonstrate a good musical understanding of the style they're playing in, and a sufficient amount of technical ability on their instrument to communicate it properly. That, if you want to sum everything up, is kind of how it works, and it just gets increasingly more complicated as you go through the grades. Same will be true with podcasting, blogging. As the technology evolves, what we're doing is we're always just going to assess how well the students use the technology they've got to hand, how
Yeah.
well they manipulate what they've got to produce something which communicates their intentions or the intention of someone else really well. And obviously we have really close relationships with a whole load of technology partners, so we can work with them to make sure that we're constantly keeping things that are going to be appropriate
Yeah.
for the people that are engaging with the stuff. So if we don't do that, then there's no point. We've got to do stuff that works and that people engage with and people enjoy.
Yeah.
Which is why we've also done a lot of work around representation as well. What is EDIB, to make sure that you can't be what you can't see. So we're looking at
Yeah.
accessibility to our exam centres. So if you're in
Yeah.
a wheelchair, can you access the exams? If you need particular adjustments made to how you play a particular instrument, can you still access our curriculum? And also our latest syllabuses that we've brought out, we've made sure that there's appropriate gender representation and there's representation for the global majority as well. So our classical syllabuses, violin and piano, big focus on making sure that it's not just all the standard white dead Europeans that have been kind of part of the canon for however long.
Yeah.
Actually, you guys would be quite interested to know at Planet Drum, with it being your title, that we were approached by a school, and there were some girls that were having drum lessons with a male teacher, but they aged, I think they ranged in age from 9 to 14, and they wrote a letter to us saying, "We really, really love your drum syllabus. It's fantastic. We really love doing the exams, but why are all the people on the covers? Why are they all guys? And why are all the tracks written by male drummers?" And we thought, do you know what? That's a fair point. So we're looking at that and we're doing something about it.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because I think half of our students are probably female. What do you think? What do you think, Alan?
Maybe not half, but a good third, yeah.
Yeah, we've got
absolutely
a lot of female drummers.
I find that female drummers put more time into practice, which is good, especially schoolgirls. So yeah, it's quite interesting, and this has been a trend for quite a long time. Actually, it's not a new thing. I think that there are many great,
but there's not so many when you think about a lot of the great drummers. Obviously, there is definitely more males that come to mind before you think of females potentially.
Yeah, but I think that from experience, I know a few professional, female musicians. There, a lot of them had a hard time, just in a man's world. So I think things need to change because there is definitely a lot of really good players, female players coming up. And I think Dan is right. That needs to be promoted, and we need to make sure we don't just keep the old standards going forward.
And I think if you are listening to this and you are a female musician or a female drummer particularly, and there are particular things that you've noticed about the industry or how things are set up, then get in touch and give us your feedback, because it's always really interesting. And if we're not talking to people out and about who are living the experience, then then we're not going to get it. We're not getting it right, and it is a core part of what we do. And of course, we talked about male and female drummers, but let's but even that as a gender designation isn't necessarily, certainly in the UK, isn't necessarily always helpful. And one of the things we did when we brought out our new vocal syllabus is, those of you that know Rockschool will know that in 2014 we brought out a vocal syllabus that was for there was a male syllabus and a female syllabus.
All right.
We don't have that now. It's just a vocal syllabus, and it has always been the case that if you're a guy, you can sing female tracks. If you're female, you can sing male tracks, and of course, you may not identify as male or female. So we just want to
How do you deal with the voice range? With a range of voice?
Can you change the
vocal range
keys of the songs?
Yeah. Yes, it's quite cool. It takes what we've done is engineered it so that you can submit a track and you can transpose you can take our specific arrangements that are benchmarked at a particular level, and you can then transpose them into the key that's appropriate for your own voice. So if you want to drop it down a fifth or up a third or down an octave, whatever, you can do that. As long as you're continuing to, to express the vocal range that is in the printed material. And in the book, each book for each grade tells you the range of the lowest note and the highest note in the song. So that helps you kind of choose which songs might be appropriate for you. And then you download the backing tracks. You can drop them into a digital audio workstation, and then transpose them into a key that works for you, and then do it that way. And there's loads of other things that we've done with our free choice piece and a wider repertoire and all that guidance that kind of gives some really specific detailed guidance as to what works and what doesn't work. But that's one thing we've done, because we want people to be able to go, this is how I identify as a musician, or I'm exploring what my musical identity is. And through that process, I'm going to do an exam using the music that really resonates for me. And Rockschool is able to assess that.
That's really cool. I remember when I was doing my singing grades, this was ages ago, back at school. I'm quite a low singer, or I was when I first started singing. Obviously now I've managed to expand my range, and I can sing a lot higher. But when I first started, I was very much a very low singer, and there was really not much that was available for me to sing, and I used to really struggle. I mean, I did musical theatre, to be fair, so a lot of it is quite high. But again, the only options available were musical theatre or classical, and I wanted to do something more contemporary, but where I went, there wasn't really that available. So yeah, no, I think it's really good that you can. Obviously, I think it's good for people to push themselves and to do, to expand their range and to try and sing higher or to sing lower. But I think if that was available to me, that would have been so helpful. I think.
Yeah, well, I think that's.
And just to know that if you're a female and you sing low, like that is totally acceptable. And if you're a male singer and you sing high, that's also amazing. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to.
It's it, and within the pop world, you can use the description soprano, alto, tenor, bass, but then you've got mezzo soprano, and you've got countertenor, and you've got baritone, and you've got basso profundo, and all these different. There's even coloratura soprano compared to all these different ways of describing describing voice. And I think where the relationship that we have is that with teachers is that the teachers work with the students, establish the relationship, help the students to bring out what their voice is, develop their skills, develop their technique, so they can expand their range, or they can explore what sort of styles they particularly like singing in, what styles they might start to specialize in, but then keeping them diverse. And what we do is make sure that as much as we possibly can, we've got the syllabus gives that flexibility
that can do that. Yeah,
we don't, particularly in our vocal syllabus, which is a particularly interesting one. We don't say if you are a rock school, to pass Rockschool grade 4, you must perform in this particular style and in this particular way. You basically you need to be able to demonstrate an appropriate level of musicianship for the grade, and you can use and you select the right tracks that are going to help you demonstrate that are going to meet the criteria.
Okay. Yeah. What can you just run us through the different grades you offer at the moment, instrumental and other?
Yeah, certainly can. Okay, let's see. I can get all this. We do electric guitar, acoustic guitar, bass guitar, ukulele. We do drums. We do vocals. We do piano and keys as 2 separate syllabuses. We also do classical piano and classical violin. We also do contemporary pop music theory. So within that, there's kind of things about how you write for bands at the higher levels, which is
that's good.
Quite unique.
That's interesting.
And we do music production, and we do our vlogging, and we do our podcasting. So that's within the Rockschool bit and the RSL classical bit and the creative qualifications bit. And then we've got Performing Arts Awards, which are dance exams. That's musical theatre, jazz dance, street dance, acting and screen acting. And we also do vocational qualifications, which are alternatives to GCSE and A-level. They run from level 1 all the way through to level 5 or 6, which cover creative and performing arts, music in both a performance and a composition and a business point of view, and technology. We also do creative music industry and creative industry professional. There's also an art and design one in there, and there's also a well-being one in there as well. So
Okay.
it's really quite broad. There's a load of
There's a
stuff that we
lot.
do. Yeah, and we're unique in that we occupy the kind of the curriculum space and the extracurricular space. So that means that we're in a really good place to say, well, what you're doing outside school and what you're doing inside school, there is actually a way that they can mesh together. And I think
Yes.
that's really important because, you know, we examine students that are, you know, everywhere from sort of 5 all the way through to kind of, you know, 85. And the adults, you know, will look at our stuff in a particular way. But for students, you know, they're going to school every day and they have a music lesson for the most part, and then they have an instrumental lesson, you know, privately as well. And actually seeing how those two things fit together is pretty important. And of
Yeah.
course, accessing music through the curriculum is really important. It is absolutely vital that we make sure that everybody has access to high quality classroom music in primary school and secondary school. That is where every child goes. That's where they can access music. They need good teachers that can inspire students. And then, of course, you can use the Rockschool repertoire and the Rockschool materials to in the classroom to kind of get people going, get people experiencing, you know, proper music that's at the right sort of level, and that can lead them to, if they want to, moving through and then doing an individual exam
Yeah.
as well. So, you know, it's not just that we sit there going, well, if you're paying for, you know, one-to-one guitar lessons, then that's the only way you can access our stuff.
Yes.
That's not, you know, it's not true.
Yeah.
We
We've only got 5 minutes left, so I've got 2 more questions that I'd love to ask you. The first one is, if all of these were accessible to you when you were younger and studying, what would you choose to do, just out of interest? Is there anything? Obviously, you do trumpet and piano, but is there anything else? If all of these, you know, qualifications were available to you, what would you have done?
Well, I am currently taking myself through the Rockschool bass exams.
Are you?
Basically, well, you can't see, but I've got a bass behind me.
Yeah, I can see it.
So I've been learning. I've been learning that. So I've been working through kind of like I'd like to sound grade 3. I'm absolutely not. I'm about grade 1.5 right now. But you know, I'm always over egg it a little bit. I think honestly, the contemporary piano syllabus and the contemporary key syllabus, I've absolutely been all over those.
Yeah.
Just because, and particularly as you know, we've got the classical side of things as well. You can kind of curate this mixed thing where it's almost like it doesn't matter with a classical, you know, classical pianist or a contemporary pianist. There are skills that sort of sit underneath. So I'd have done those alongside.
Yes.
So probably those. I'd have probably done the music production grades as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But certainly, I came out of doing my, you know, academic music degree, started working with students who would access music in a completely different way using music technology, and I very quickly learned how to do music technology because I had students in front of me that knew how to do it, and I thought, well, I need.
Who were just doing it all really quickly as well.
Yeah. So I think that's probably those are the things I would have done.
Okay, cool. Last question then. Have you got any projects in store for the future? Are you guys working on anything that might be coming out soon? Can you say anything? I'm not sure.
Well, there's a question. Yes, we do have a number of things. Our most recent innovation was the learning platform, which is the app, which means you can access all of our stuff through a subscription if you're a student, or free if you're a teacher. And we've got that at institutional level as well. So organizations can buy kind of multiple seats. We're looking at how that develops over time. We are bringing out a couple of new syllabuses in September.
Okay.
And if you're a guitarist, you'll be particularly interested in one of those that's coming through. And we are also looking at kind of the VQ space where we do things for, you know, for musical performance where people aren't always working as an individual, and how we can kind, you know, and expanding that so that you might be working in groups as well.
Okay.
So something that sort of exists within the VQ space, but we're just sort of looking at how we develop that. And there's something else we're doing as well, which I kind of, you know, which is looking at all the digital approach to stuff. I can't say much more than that.
No, I know.
Genuinely, I would start following RSL Awards at RSL Awards on Facebook, Twitter, Insta, even TikTok. And
you guys are on TikTok.
We are a little bit. We haven't done a huge amount with TikTok, but we're sort of dipping our toe in the water. Insta and Facebook and Twitter are kind of the places where you'll be able to get information. You can also sign up if you sign up with an account with us. You can sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get kind of regular updates as to what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting over these summer months. Watch what's coming.
Sounds like you guys are doing quite a lot. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid, today. Unfortunately, we could keep going. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I will put the website and everything in the description so people can go and have a look and follow you and check you guys out and everything. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today.
No, thank you. It's always a pleasure. We'll
Thanks a lot,
speak
Dan.
soon. All right. Thank you.